Em.
Hi.
Nice to see you again.
It's always nice to see you too.
I'm so excited to have you here because real estate and the interest rates are a super hot topic these days. So I wanted to bring in a professional and kind of just dissect the market, kind of just get your opinions of what you're seeing on the mortgage side, what sellers and homeowners are doing to find solutions in this crazy market, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's jump right into it.
So I guess right now, I'm sure you're probably getting a lot of phone calls every time the interest rates go up. So I guess what are some things that homeowners are doing right now in order to keep their homes, find the solutions? Because I think, as we know, homeowners are going to try to do everything in their power to keep their homes before they have to sell. So I kind of just want to hear your perspective in the mortgage world.
Yeah, so first of all, I would say it's very important to understand how rates increase or what impacts rate increases. And there's two things to really remember and consider. So the first thing is fixed rates, which are tied to Canadian bonds and the bond market. Those can change and fluctuate on a very regular daily basis. And then there is the variable rate or prime rate, which fluctuates when the Bank of Canada meets. And the Bank of Canada meets 8 times a year. We have 3 left this year, and the next one is on September 6th. So one will impact a variable and the other will impact fixed. They do sometimes correlate with each other, but not necessarily at the same times. So that's the first thing to remember. The second thing to kind of think about is exactly what you just said. So Canadians will do pretty much anything to stay in their homes. So although we might see some defaults, we will, I'm sure, but we won't necessarily see a complete drop-off, in my opinion. I think that when it comes to housing, culturally, we put such a high value on maintaining a home and being homeowners that people will, be late on every other bill before they would be late on their mortgage and default on their mortgage. And we saw that during COVID when we went into job loss situations. Very few people actually defaulted. In fact, we ended up seeing completely the opposite at some points where the market took off. So I don't know that we're going to see a bunch of people all of a sudden selling, but we might see some people looking for strategies and solutions.
And what are some of those strategies? Because as you kind of mentioned earlier, in 2019, people are coming up for renewal for 2024, 2025, and that can look like a 4% difference in terms of their interest, right? So what are some homeowners doing right now in the conversations that you're having?
So that is absolutely accurate. So 2019, and the reason I'm saying 2019 is because the average person, or most people I should say, take a 5-year fixed.
Yeah.
So if you closed on a purchase in 2019, you're coming up for renewal in 2024. So that technically is January, right? And right now we are on August 31st, I think.
Crazy.
So I know. So we are nearing September. So September, October, November, December, we are 4 months technically away from 2024, right? So clients right now really, in my opinion, should start to engage their mortgage professionals, whomever that is that they're working with, who will offer them advice. And what some strategies that I'm encouraging my past clients to do, and actually have an email going out to my database that funded in 2019 on Tuesday, because I thought it would be better to wait a little bit after the long weekend. But what we're going to be advising our clients to do is to, first of all, engage your mortgage professional early. And mortgage professional, in my opinion, is not the person that you have your mortgage with, as in the bank or the lender.
Right.
So let's say you're with Bank A. You still want to consult a mortgage broker, even if you end up going with Bank A. That is totally fine. I am of the mindset where I will even push my clients back there. If I put my client there in 2019, chances are that lender is amazing. But let's make sure that person behind the desk is offering you the best solutions up front and not necessarily giving you what they think that you can negotiate or haggle for.
Right.
And a lot of people will sign that paper the first time they get it. So the first thing is engage your mortgage broker, and I would encourage you to start to do that 6 to even 10 months before your maturity. Why that is because if you are looking to do a refinance and you need to borrow money, or you're looking to do any other types of reamortizing your mortgage or strategy, having that extra timeline and buffer is an excellent tool. Time is very special, and it's the best tool we can do when we plan, prepare before we perform. So engaging early. The second thing is not to take that first offer that they do, even if it is the lowest rate. Have that conversation, second opinion, compare, contrast, understand your options, speak about your goals. You're not the same person now as you were 5 years ago. I can pretty much guarantee it.
Yeah.
So if something has changed in your life, maybe a shorter term is better right now for you. Maybe a longer term, probably not, but maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's conversations to have versus just taking what you had before without consideration. So that's something really important to think about. Another thing to be cognizant of is when you are up for renewal, the lender will ask you to renew for your next payment date. So Jenna, let's pretend that you're up for maturity in May of 2024. You technically can start engaging in the renewal process in January or February of 2024.
Right.
But you're in 2.59, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
We want to hang on to that rate as a homeowner, right? But the bank says we can offer you maybe 10 basis points less than the market value to get you to take advantage of that rate next payment date. Whereas you could have held on to it until May of 2024. So it's important to have a rate held for your maturity while you're in the negotiation process with your bank, because you don't want to simply just accept that rate and lose on that 2.59 for 4 months. That's money just being thrown out the window. Obviously, they want to retain you.
Right.
And that's a great thing. We want our banks to want us, but we want them to want us when it makes sense financially for us as the consumer, right? So there's that. And now I'll get into a little bit of a strategy. So one is timing, planning, and having the right conversations, comparing, contrasting, and having education to be able to empower yourself to make a choice.
Right.
The next thing is, if you are coming up for maturity in 2024 or 2025, which means you purchased in 2019 or 2020, or you renewed then, you can start to consider increasing your mortgage payment a little bit right now so that more money goes to your principal while your payment is actually lower. That will help buffer that 4% increase. We are looking at 6% rates right now.
Yeah.
That's just where we are. It's unfortunate, sucks, whatever terminology you want to use for it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
You don't love it.
Nobody likes it.
I'm not happy,
Yeah.
right? Like, I want to give the best, lowest rates. When I was giving 189, it was like every day was Christmas,
Yeah.
right? So that was great, but we're not there now. So we need to plan, and how can we help? The way that I strategize with my clients is, while you can afford it and it's not going to be shocking, increase your payment now.
Yeah.
That little bit of extra money, even if it's $10, $15 a payment biweekly, will go directly to principal. What that means is when you come up for maturity, your balance is lesser than it would have been had you not increased your payments. And we have options to re-amortize the mortgage, allowing for that cash flow flexibility. Maybe you don't want to do it every 2 weeks because you're maybe in someone like me or yourself, commission-based environment. You don't know what it's going to be like. Make a lump sum when it makes sense to you.
Right.
Not necessarily when a set payment biweekly. Maybe that $15, $20 would impact, you know, somebody in a service industry or something like that, where your payments on your income fluctuate. Totally get it.
Right.
But perhaps you get a tax return, a Christmas bonus, you know, auntie leaves you a little extra money. Consider throwing a portion of that onto your mortgage as a prepayment to help lower that principal balance.
Right. Now, is it safe to say that a lot of people might take advantage of having a longer amortization period? Because say if someone is in a condo, right? They've been in it for 5 years, let's say, give or take. If they were to extend the amortization, I mean, realistically, if you think about it, you're not really in a condo for the next 25, 30 years, right? With the market appreciation, you know, each year you're going to see a little bit of gains. Now, sometimes obviously they're down. But however, you know, if they were to extend that, things go back to normal. Realistically, they might only be in the condo for another 3 or 4 years. Yeah. They might have that equity, and then they can either sell or they can move up, right? So do you think a lot of people are going to take advantage of it? So it will lower their payments, and two, you know, it's not as bad as maybe some people are thinking about it right now.
Yeah, I think the fact is you need to have a conversation with a broker, because they will show you the payment differences, so that when you know about something and it's not a surprise. I hate surprises. I don't know about you. I hate surprises. Yeah. I want to know the facts and the numbers on pretty much everything in my life. It's not a great probably personality trait, but I don't care. I like to be planned and clean and know kind of where I'm going to go. Yeah. That's why I put your address here today in the GPS and didn't just wing it, right? So I think that's really important to understand as a client. Longer amortizations has always been something that I've encouraged my clients to take, especially living through a pandemic. Yeah. I don't know about you. Never had I lived through a pandemic before. Did not expect it. Was not planning for it.
It's definitely off my bucket list.
Right. It's off the bucket list, but I wasn't prepared for it. Yeah. Were you? No. Like, had no idea, right? So plan for the unexpected, right? And understand that the amortization there is a tool. I can't tell you how many clients said to me in 2019 prior to going into the pandemic, I don't want a 30-year amortization. The banks want the money, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that's a tool to use to control cash flow.
Too.
You get to choose to increase your payment at any time. You do not have to keep it at the lowest payment and pay it off over 30 years. But the 30 years is there to go back to should you wish to. Now, for those clients that used default insurance because they didn't have 20% down, 25 years was the only option. However, if you picked biweekly, it's possible that you've been paying off your mortgage faster. And if so, which a lot of clients do because it matches their pay frequency, then you may have a little wiggle room where you'll be able to go back a couple years in your amortization without any penalties and fees. However, if the equity is there, as you say, and time's passed, and you do need that cash flow flexibility, we also have the option to refinance back to 30 years, subject to approval and qualification, all those good things. But that 30-year option with a 6% rate could give you that peace of mind in that next 5-year or 3-year term that you sign. And then when you're, in a different position, rates change, you get more money, you get a second income. You never know, like where you signed your mortgage at the time of closing. When I bought my first house, I wasn't married. Second time we renewed, married, now we have 2 incomes. Then the third time, had a kid, was on mat leave. Like all of these things change. It's really nice to have that flexibility within the amortization to be able to take advantage when you're doing really, really well financially, but understanding that some years might be different than others. And you have to kind of hedge for those. So the amortization is a tool for you to do that.
And so how are you finding that clients are with you right now? Like when they're having that first initial phone call after these rate hikes, are they very nervous going into these conversations?
Depressed.
Or how are people feeling?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I feel terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful. I will say I have to, selfishly, I'll talk about myself for a second. I have to frame how I'm going to have conversations before I have them now. Because if I have 10 calls in a day, it's not as fun.
Yeah.
I'll be perfectly frank. Now, from clients' perspective, which is what I should really be talking about and caring about, because that's what we should be. It's scary.
Yeah.
They're nervous. They're fearful. It's shitty, Jenna. Like honestly, there's no sugarcoating it. It's not a great time to have the cash flow issues. However, on the flip side, houses are sitting, as you know, 35, 45, 55, 65 days. My clients that are buying are getting condition of financing. They are getting full inspections, 2 visits to the property, sometimes 3.
Yep.
They get the closing date they want. There is no multiple offers. Is it a great time to buy if you consider marrying the house and dating the rate? Yeah, but is that the conversation I have as a mortgage broker? No, I have just the rate conversation. And people focus on that rate so much instead of the overall cost of borrowing. Understanding that this is a time, it's a cycle. It's a moment in time. This too shall pass. I have to believe that. I've been doing this since 2009. I've seen it good. I've seen it bad. We have to,
kind of have to just weather the storm. And I think
it's a cycle.
I think the biggest thing right now is, not to make it seem better than what it is and just having real conversations, not sugarcoating it and educating, because a lot of, people out there don't think they have options and they're scared for these renewals. And, as you mentioned earlier, I think just getting in front of it sooner than later, 6-10 months before that, and just laying out all the different options and seeing what's going to work best for you, because this market isn't great for everyone. This market isn't the best for investors. It's difficult for first-time home buyers. However, this market is good for people who have owned real estate. They're homeowners for maybe 10 years and can move up in the market, right? So as much as I think it's a tough market, it's a lot of doomsday articles are coming out. Which is true, it is a tough market, but I think there is a little bit of positive in there, but it's just going to be about educating and having really real conversations.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is not pressuring anyone to do anything. Always, have you heard of commission breath? It's like the grossest thing ever. You're not going to make someone want to get a mortgage. People get a mortgage when they need to get a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
I can't sell you a mortgage. If you're here and we're having a conversation, you're not going to be like, you know what? I'm going to pick up a couple coffees from Starbucks, grab a mortgage, and then, I don't know, feed my cat. Like, no, you're not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
You will come to your professional of choice when you are ready to buy a home and when you need that service. And I think that as professionals, both myself and yourself, regardless of which side we are on the buy and the sell, service, service, service over everything, education, empowerment, no pressure. Like, that person will be with you if you are just kind and support them from start to end of journey. And the journey might just be a longer sales cycle than it was when you listed a house for a day. But I can tell you, as a mortgage broker, those were the most stressful days of my life, because I would have real estate agents, clients crying. I lost on my 17th offer. I was in multiples, 54 offers. Like, that's not an exaggeration. That is what they were like, we were going to have a baby in that house. And it's like, girl, you weren't even in the top 5 offers. Like, you were not having a baby in that house.
Like, even during the pandemic in a super hot market, like, that was almost as stressful. And it was stressful in different ways,
Totally.
you know, like you just said, like, we were going and seeing houses every day, and a house came on the market, you had to drop everything and you had to go. Your phone didn't stop ringing. You miss out on 20 offers, you know, and it's multiples.
Clients' appraisals coming in not where they were meant to be.
Yeah,
so
you're
now
going
they're
in
short
firm.
money.
I think both markets have, you know, their ups and downs, their pros and cons. It's just what's going to make the most sense for you at that time, and then really just figuring out bottom lines and solutions in both markets.
Totally.
And so with that, where do you see the next interest rate on September 6th? Do you think it's going to go up? Do you think it's going to go down?
Because if I'm wrong.
What's your crystal ball telling you?
I'll just tell you, and then I'll be wrong, and we'll edit it out, right? I think we're going to see an increase. I think we are a super conservative country when it comes to we were like just spending, but now we see the inflation. I'm not going to get these numbers right. I think it was 2.8 in June and 3.3 in July, but I might be wrong on that exact numbers. But we're seeing an increase again, and I kind of thought, oh, July is going to be lower. But when we see that kind of increase from the 2.8 to the 3, even if it was 2 to 3 bracket, I think that the Bank of Canada is going to try to curb that. And it's really unfortunate, because at the end of the day, it's on the backs of all people that have debt, period. So where the impacts come from aren't just like fixed rate mortgage clients are fine, really. Where you're going to have problems is if you have student loans that are connected to prime, unsecured lines of credits, and your home equity lines of credits, which we are seeing right now at like 7, 8%, 9%, depending on if you're prime plus 1 or not. And if you're carrying a balance because you did a home renovation or you bought a vehicle on it, you're talking like 8, 9% on your, balances. So those clients that carry the debts will highly benefit if they own a home and can roll that into their mortgage, because even though the rate will be in the 5 or 6% range on a fixed, the cash flow will be there again for them. Lines of credit, though, on the flip side, they're interest only. So you do have that flexibility to the payment where you don't have to necessarily make standardized payments every month. So there's that flexibility. I do think we will see another increase. It's very unfortunate. I mean, I really hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of where I feel things are leaning. The fixed rates, as we mentioned, are tied to bond markets. We're seeing those go up daily. I get an email every single day from at least 2 or 3 lenders. We're going up 3, 5, 10 basis points like every single day.
No, that makes sense. And something else I wanted to talk about is, I'm talking to a lot of neighbors these days. I'm out, knocking doors, just, seeing where people are at. And I'm coming across a lot of people who are in semis and they do want to take advantage and move up. Home prices right now, as we talked about, are a little bit less right now, which is, good for some people, right? But the biggest question I get asked is, if I was to sell this house, where would I go? Interest rates are too high. So I kind of just wanted to talk about a solution or what clients can take advantage of that, because as we kind of talked about, there are different solutions.
Yeah, so that's portability, right? So when we are porting a mortgage, which is what I like to call it, it's just basically, if I were to visualize it, you've got your house over here that you live in, and you want to buy this house over here. So what we would simply do is take the mortgage off of this house, you've sold it, and we put it onto your new purchase. So it's just like the idea of something being portable, right? So it comes from one house to the next. What's very important to remember with portability is that it is subject to approval. And what subject to approval means is you have to, even if you go for less, this is the crazy thing. You could have a mortgage for, let's say, $100,000 on this property at 1.99, and you want to put it here, but you only need, let's say you're downsizing, for example.
Yeah.
So we call that a port and decrease, because we'll be decreasing this mortgage from 100,000, let's say, to 50,000. Remember, it's at 199. So now we'll put it over here at 199.
199 is the rate? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
At $50,000, let's say, because they're downsizing, so they don't need as big of a mortgage. They still have to qualify.
Right.
Okay, so we still need to make sure that you can qualify as the property qualifies as well as the client qualifies. So subject to approval. But you can take it with you. And if your mortgage balance comes down, you are penalized on the amount of money not coming back to the bank. So if your penalty was, let's say, $3,000 and you're going from 100,000 to 50,000, your penalty will be, let's say, just for rough numbers, 1,500 or 1,500, because that's half of $3,000 and your penalty. You know, it's subject to like rough numbers.
Right.
That's the first option. Second option is a straight port, which means you take your mortgage from here 100,000, you put it right here for 100,000. Still have to requalify.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about at those 8% subject rates, right? Because it's your rate plus 2 that we have to qualify.
And requalify, just to like clarify for people, that's like doing the whole credit report again, the job, like the everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Full, pretend you're getting a brand new mortgage application. Actually, don't pretend you're getting a brand new mortgage application.
Yeah.
You are getting a brand new mortgage application. It's a full application. That's that. That one probably you wouldn't have a penalty, or it's charged up front and then refunded when you close.
So would it make sense then for someone to port their mortgage if they're downsizing, or does it make more sense if they're upsizing? Or is
all
it,
if rates are lower that you have versus what you can get.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And then if
so it could, even if you're downsizing,
Yep.
you might have a bit of a penalty, but it still could be.
Wouldn't you rather 199 on 50,000 than 6.29 on 50,000?
And so another question then, so it's just taking that same rate that you have and moving it over. They don't blend rates and stuff like that?
So that's the third option.
Okay.
So let's say we're at 100,000 and now you're buying another property that you need a $200,000 mortgage. So we're not talking about the value of the house. Let's just keep it simple on the mortgage. So now you need a $200,000 mortgage. So your $100,000 mortgage that you have comes over. And there's a couple way the banks do it. So sometimes they add another mortgage behind it, sometimes but for simplicity purposes, I'm going to say old mortgage, old rate, new mortgage, new rate, weighted average blend. That's traditional.
Right.
And then that's where you'd see something in between the 1.99 and the 6.29 that we have right now, and we would blend that together.
And do you see that come across your desk often right now? Is that something people are doing? Do most clients know about this option?
I would say most clients don't know because they don't know about asking about it until they want to sell and buy.
Yeah.
So, but in the beginning conversations that I have with them, so if they're like a 2019 client, I would say, you know, it's very important that you have a lender that you choose. Like, we shouldn't just pick any lender, right? We need a lender that allows bridge financing, portability, prepayment privileges, and other benefits that will help you, because a mortgage is for a long time and it's very expensive. So you want to have perks, like you want a Gucci mortgage, not a dollar store option, right?
I love that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
though? Like,
of
we
course.
want to have that variety of solutions within the product versus like, oh, it breaks after, you know, having it for 2 days, like a dollar store toy, right? So, or it's filled with chemicals, like who knows? Anyway, so the point is that you want those options. So are people doing it now more than before? I would say no. I think that people always wanted to avoid penalties and fees, and rates historically have been low for a while. So am I doing ports? Certainly. And are people holding their rates? Yes, but they also have been for the last 5 to 7 years, I would say. It's pretty common. The only time you wouldn't port your mortgage is if you were like already at a 5% rate and then we were offering like 2% rates now. Then we would look at what the penalty cost is and see if it makes sense to break and get a lower rate versus porting the mortgage over. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
But it's an option, right?
Yeah. It's really nice that like people can have options and you know, because they can benefit from that, right? If they want to move or upsize or whatever it is. So just some ending thoughts then. This was a lot of information for people to take in, but as always, super happy to have you here. So where do you kind of see 2024 heading? What type of direction?
So for 2023, I was like, oh, I just can't wait for 2024 because it's going to be so great. If I'm honest, I think we're going to see, I think 2024 is going to be a little bit challenging still. I don't think we're in a full recession yet. I do think it's coming. I made the joke with another partner of mine that I work with that, oh, October, you know, 2023 recession's coming. Like,
Yeah.
but no, I think it's probably, if it's not a full blown recession, it's going to be hard for longer than it's going to be better sooner, I think.
Yep.
I would think that it's taken a long time it took a really short time to drop the rates as low as they went. It's taken a long time to kind of get to where we are. We started seeing rates increase in 2022 and we are in 2023 now, and they're still going. As we continue to see them go up, I think we need to see them level out first.
Yeah.
When we stop seeing those daily emails that I'm getting from lenders,
Yeah.
then we might see them come down again. That to me might be maybe end of 2024, beginning of 2025.
Yeah,
But I hope
that's
I'm
how I feel
wrong.
too. I hope so too, but I think you're absolutely right. I think 2024 is going to be a pretty challenging year. I don't think we've hit the recession yet. It's been a big buildup, I think, and I think all of us thought it was probably going to happen sooner than later.
Totally.
And it's been a super weird year, like to see the first half of 2023, how like prices start to go up, multiple offers, offer nights, and then, I think May was the peak of the market in terms of real estate and the average prices, and then it kind of just hit a flat, and now we're kind of coming on the come down. So I think 2024 is going to be really interesting, but again, it's just having the real conversations, trying not to sugarcoat things and just being realistic and really just trying to find solutions, conversations I'm having now with homeowners, who are thinking about, I need to sell my property. It's like, well, let's get you in touch with a mortgage broker and see what we can do. Because I think some people who are not educated just think they have to sell when, in reality, maybe there's certain options that they can do. It might not be pretty. And like you said, it's going to suck. No one likes having a super high mortgage, but we just have to kind of weather the storm and try to find some positives in the market, and this too shall pass.
I totally agree with that, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting about real estate and mortgages, and I appreciate you.
I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you.